What were the effects of the Treaty of Tordesillas? Have you ever wondered how a single agreement could shape an entire continent? The Treaty of Tordesillas, signed in 1494 between Spain and Portugal, did just that. This treaty established a line of demarcation roughly 370 leagues west of the Cape Verde Islands. It divided newly discovered lands outside Europe between these two emerging maritime powers. Spain received rights to all lands west of this line, while Portugal got the east. This division was meant to prevent conflict after Christopher Columbus's voyages. However, it was based on limited geographic knowledge and papal authority, which gave it a religious justification. One immediate effect was that Spain gained control over most of the Americas. This shaped the colonial map of Latin America for centuries. On the other hand, Portugal secured territories in Africa, Asia, and notably, Brazil. Brazil was discovered after the treaty was signed but fell east of the demarcation line. This is why Brazil became a Portuguese-speaking country while most of Latin America became Spanish-speaking. The treaty had serious consequences for the indigenous peoples of the Americas. It ignored their sovereignty and rights, treating their lands as possessions to be divided between European crowns. This facilitated Spanish and Portuguese conquests and colonization. The result was widespread exploitation, cultural disruption, and demographic collapse among native populations. The treaty played a role in European domination and the transformation of indigenous societies in Latin America. Over time, the treaty's vague definitions and the realities of exploration led to disputes. For example, the Treaty of Madrid in 1750 revised borders in South America between Spanish and Portuguese territories. This acknowledged that the original treaty was outdated. The process of border negotiation continued well into the 18th century, reflecting the complex realities on the ground beyond the initial line of demarcation. From a cultural perspective, the Treaty of Tordesillas set the stage for the linguistic, religious, and cultural patterns that define much of Latin America today. Spanish and Portuguese colonial rule introduced Christianity, European languages, and governance structures that deeply influenced the region's identity. However, it also marked the beginning of centuries of colonial domination that suppressed indigenous cultures and imposed foreign control over the Americas. The legacy of the Treaty of Tordesillas is a mix of cultural fusion and colonial imposition. It continues to influence Latin American identity and history. The treaty divided the non-European world between Spain and Portugal, leading to Portuguese control of Brazil and Spanish control of most other American territories. It facilitated European colonization and exploitation of indigenous peoples, and established cultural and linguistic foundations that persist in Latin America. Later treaties adjusted borders as geographic knowledge and colonial realities evolved.